Hey everyone, I'm Preston Schinkel. I've been working at N3 Boatworks for 10 years selling Nautiques, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the Nautique G-Series and how it became the gold standard for wake and surf boats. To start, let's take a step back to before the G was released, pre-2012. When wakeboarding started gaining popularity in the 90s, most boats were designed for slalom skiing and making the smallest wake possible. Back then, it wasn't uncommon to see water sports enthusiasts modifying their boats. Extended pylons and adding extra ballast were commonly used to get a rider more airtime. Nautique took notice to the growth in wakeboarding and released the first Air Nautique in 1997. This was basically a sport Nautique with the first patent-pending tower and a graphic on the side. In 1998, the Sport Nautique was updated along with the Air Nautique to a newer hull design, which added a 500-pound ballast tank in the transom. And just like that, Nautique was in the wakeboarding game. The following year, in 1999, Nautique released their first boat with a dedicated hull design meant for wakeboarding. This boat was the Pro Air Nautique, featuring strakes at the front to lift the bow, with venting through the midsection to allow the transom of the boat to sit deeper in the water and create a steeper, taller wake so you could get bigger air. We didn't see any dedicated wake hulls released from Nautique until 2006 with the advent of the Super Air Nautique 220. There were other boats in the Super Air Nautique lineup prior to the 220, but I consider the 220 to be a turning point in Nautique's development of what a true wakeboard boat interior and features looks like. Features like a warming tray on top of the engine, communicating storage from the interior side seats into the rear lockers, reversible seating so your passengers can watch people do the activities behind the boat, manipulating the wave with the hydrogate setting at the helm. We had dedicated trash can location, a dedicated bread box, and built-in cooler on the boat as well. In conjunction with the 220, Nautique had the very popular 210 and 230 model. This 220 specifically ran through 2009. The 210 and the 230 ran all the way up until 2021. But that's a different story. In 2009, Nautique's product design and development team put up a vision board of what the next step in their wake boat evolution would be. Thus began the development of the G-Series. Top of the list of their vision board was make the best wake boat on the market. In order to have the best wakeboard boat, you have to have the best wake. Having the best wake starts with the hull. Everything that came before the G-Series was essentially a modified ski boat hull. In order to make it a wakeboard boat, we're just throwing more weight at the boat. More weight in boat equals bigger wake. The problem was, we're doing this to boats that have natural lifting characteristics in the hull design itself. Nautique's design team knew that they had to redesign a hull which displaced water, riding deeper in the water and sculpting the wake to be taller, steeper, and have more power 75 feet behind the boat. When the G landed, Nautique was successful in creating the best wakeboard wake ever.
I've been wakeboarding for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things come about from different innovations and things, and some things have definitely taken the sport to the next level, but it's been a long time since we've seen anything. And this wake is going to do it. We're going to see tricks done off the wake that normally are only done off the double up, or tricks that have never even been done are going to be done off this wake.
The true displacement hull made for a massive volume of water being pushed off the back of the boat, with a long transition for takeoff and landing, which makes riding effortless comparatively to anything we've ridden before. The great thing about the wake is that it is scalable. You can take the weight out of the boat and run it at much slower speeds and add weight and speed to the rider's ability level. You check off best wake, and that leaves us with the features on the interior. The G would ultimately become the culmination of a lot of great features we've seen in Nautiques over the years, but it was up to the team to figure out how to put it all together, along with some new features that we'd never seen before. To create the best wakeboard boat in Nautique's mind, we needed to have no visible ballast. What needed to happen for this to become a reality? Nautique developed a fully integrated stringer system to allow all of the ballast to be subfloor. In addition to a much higher freeboard, that resulted in a heck of a lot of storage. The massive footprint of this new boat allowed the team to include all the staple features that they wanted to see in the new G. The transom walkthrough, massive wide open storage on either side of the engine, a sliding reversible transom seat, a built-in in-floor cooler, and an ergonomic driver-first helm. With all these features combined, this was the first time the industry had seen a boat that was pro-level right out of the box. The G23 broke the mold and fully redefined what a wake boat could be. It delivered an unprecedented blend of performance and luxury that reshaped customer expectations almost overnight. When the boat hit the public, the proof of concept was validated almost instantly. Within 48 hours of its release, two pro riders, Harley Clifford and Ollie Jerome, landed wake-to-wake 1080s during a competition, having never ridden the boat before. From there, the accolades started to pile on. The boat was voted Wake Boat of the Year for 7 years in a row and Wake Surf Boat of the Year for 5 years. As time went on, the G's impact was apparent as our competitors began adopting features and design into their own product. Nautique didn't rest. Each year that the boat's been in production, the team has refined and added features to evolve the boat into what we see today. In this next section, we're gonna pull Mark in here. Him and I are gonna nerd out starting at the 2013 model year and go through the 4 generations of the G, discuss the features, improvements, things they've added, things they've taken away, and dive into the why. All right, so Mark's with me. We're gonna start off with some of the things we consider to be foundational features to the G-Series. Then we'll dive into the specifics from model year to model year, the things they've added and changed.
To clarify what we're trying to do here is, we're gonna nerd out on the differences between actually every model year and then each generation and what changed between the boats, because this has been a boat that they haven't left alone. I mean, it's their best-selling boat that they have, and we're going to see that from model year 13, which had a big stack of stuff. 14 was bigger, but as we go from every year, there's less and less to add, but there's more items that they've kept, and it's just been an add-on every single year. And the boats have obviously grown and throughout every year.
So let's just dive right into it. Key things that make the G the G.
Yeah.
And I've already talked about it a little bit, but number one thing, as a purpose-built displacement hull, that is something that all the G-Series boats now, and subsequently, all the other Nautiques today have that. And it's all derived from the G.
Subfloor ballast, amazing storage. Going beyond that, as a design element, this was a big platform for Nautique to really showcase the details in design language and with details inside the boat. Walk-through transom, it was described by Steve Carlton in product development as yacht-like. So you enter into the boat and it's welcoming you in. It's an easy gate, each step's coming in, and it's not been tacked on. As you come into the boat, you get into storage. This was the first boat for Nautique, and I would say probably the industry as a whole, that C-deck became a thing. So all the floor C-deck, all the transom, all floor pieces are all C-deck, which means all the glass underneath it or gel coat underneath it is finished. Strangely enough, 2013 was the only year that you could get carpet in the boat. You get the I think it was the Crest logo, the Shield logo in it, and you get white or brown. So I've seen a brown one once, but I've seen a handful of carpeted G's, and they are
definitely
weird.
Not many of those out there.
Very weird.
I've never seen
it's
one.
Interesting. Yeah.
Probably in the single digits on how many.
I don't know about
Gs
single digits.
with carpet on it.
I think
when you have to get the over/under on from Nautique.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. Those very first. We're getting way into the weeds, but it was like those initial dealers, like the previous model years, I think starting in 09, where you could get the upgraded carpet. I think it was 9. Upgraded carpet where it had the big logo in it. That was the upgrade. You got it on 210s and 230s, and that was like the cool thing to have. And so when this boat came out, they were like, oh, I want the cool carpet. And so you paid extra for the carpet. Turns out nobody wanted it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that quickly went away, and it was 13 was the only year.
Yep.
Stepping in beyond that, getting way into the details.
Hey,
Cooler in G23 and G25 is a must. It's a thing that it's a staple. Probably the other monstrous item is the helm. Having the screen, link screen, had been out since 2009. It was upgraded in later years, but this screen, having it sank off to the right and having a whole bunch of glass to look through was a staple.
Yeah.
That initial boat, the Gen 1 to Gen 2 boats with the driver's side glove box, everybody always used that. And as we see in later boats, it was upgraded from there. Handful of other details that came with, I mean, it's a staple, but it was a staple that started in 2011. But ultimate seat design is just every single seat has the vents in the bottom of it.
Yep.
Drains.
Self-supporting hinges.
Self-supporting hinges.
Yep.
Actually, that was probably the biggest one.
Yep.
All the bow seats opened and held themselves. All these seats open, held themselves. And so we don't have loose cushions everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a massive piece.
And
helped us, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And the reason we're talking about these specific items is there've been little tweaks and things to the boat over the years, but these core things to the boat have more or less remained unchanged. Like
Correct.
the seating layout as a whole is pretty much the same from 2013 to today on a G-Series. With that, let's jump into 2013, year one.
All right, 2013. The boat was released in 2012. We received our first G23 in July of 2012. And those initial boats, NSS was not a thing. So it did not have a surf system, which means it didn't have a surf pipe. Our boat that we received was a ZR450, which is a high output 6-liter. And those initial boats in 2013 model year of Gen 1 were 1.48 to 1 gear reductions. And really what that meant was, unless you got the supercharged boat or supercharged motor, you could overweight the boat very quickly and it would not get on plane. And
For wakeboarding.
For wakeboarding, yeah, absolutely. So we're talking 8 people behind the windshield, nobody in the bow, and for wakeboarding, you know, the boat with a 450 would stand up and just kind of plug along and probably take 15, 16 seconds to get to 22 miles per hour, which was a really long time. Those initial boats, they advertised the boat with a 5.7 liter, and I think they might have sold a couple with the 1.48 to 1 gear reduction. There's no way that boat would have done it with that engine. Yeah.
So subsequently, you actually do see a lot of early supercharged boats.
You do. I think those
more so than you do now.
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah.
And the ratio, I
Yep.
guess you would say.
Yep. And we're really getting in the weeds. Those initial engines were the XS motors, which had polished stainless steel headers, exhaust manifolds, and some powder coating. It was just an extremely expensive engine over the 450, but it helped the boat go quite a bit. Is the 409 450 a bad option in 2013? I don't think so. I think prop technologies came along where you can actually prop the boat. It'll go a little bit slower on top end, but really it's just a reprop could make it work really well. We've also seen quite a few boats that have been upgrade the V-drive and take it to the 2 to 1 gear reduction.
Yep, which we'll get to in 2014. So standard engine is a 5.7. You could upgrade to a 6-liter 409, a 450 high output, and the 550 supercharged, which is a 6.2 liter.
Yep.
So those are the 4 different engine options you could get in a G.
Yep. And by calendar year 2013, NSS had came online. It was an option. You could add it on, and then it was an option line in general. Sliding back seat was standard, but it was just a bench that slid forward, and then the flip up backs was an option. Kind of a interesting thing. 1 year only stripe package. The small stripe and the transom stripe were separated, and then you could get thermal yellow and canyon mist were options that year. And then this was the only year that you get the tower camera.
Yep. Tied into the dash at the.
It didn't tie into the screen. It had a handheld
up at the helm, not on.
Yeah, but it had this big handheld unit, and we'll put in some clip of riding with it. And it was just like just enough that you'd be mad if you bought it.
Right.
Yeah.
Plug an SD card in there. You'd take it out for a set. You'd get home, plug it into your computer, and
Yeah, the
more than likely pretty disappointed.
You would cut, and then the camera would trail behind you, and then you'd cut the other way, and the camera would trail behind you.
You'd just be on the cusp of the shot at all times in
And
480p or 360p.
As you would imagine,
whatever it
the
was.
quality of the camera that was on a 2012 would be key.
That covers us for specifics on 2013. Let's jump into 2014.
2014, this was probably one of the biggest power changes because they went to the 2-to-1 gear reduction, which spins the engine 2 revolutions and the prop 1. In order to tone it down, they went to a 17-inch prop, and it was just a much bigger column of water that the boat was putting out, which was much more traction for it, and it instantly made the 6-liter and the 450 the dominant power choices if you were at a normal elevation. As soon as you go into higher elevation, supercharger came on, but the 2-to-1 gear reduction from 2014 and on to today was massive.
G21, one
Yeah,
of my favorites.
absolutely. Mine
First
too.
year. So that was a big development. See that trend throughout the years of them refreshing the G-Series. The G21 typically trails slightly behind the 23 and the 25 because it's a little harder to make a shorter
21.
boat work.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about all 4 generations, and the G21 hull remained the same in 1, 2, and 3.
Just 1 and 2, but yes.
1 and 2, no, you're
Yep.
right, and then changed for 3 and 4.
Yes.
You're right. But a G21, because of the shortened platform, did not receive the in-floor cooler, and some of the storage was a little bit changed just in the side seats. It was actually just shorter in those models, and it had like a soft cooler that they would throw down in there.
Right.
And it didn't ever receive the love that it really, in my mind, deserved, mostly because as soon as you take the cooler out of it and you're spinning in the range that this is, then it was an easier pill to swallow just to jump up to the G23, and that's what a lot of consumers did.
Yeah.
But don't sleep on the G21. It's a performer.
It has all the performance of the rest of the G-Series boats. And another common misconception or thing people don't realize is the G21 is only 1.5 feet shorter than the G23,
Yes, that's
whereas
exactly
the G25 is a true 2 feet longer than
That's
the
correct.
G23.
Yep.
So it doesn't feel as small when you get in it as a lot of people expect.
Going through options, the 5.7 liters dropped. It's gone.
For G23 and 25.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yes. You can still get it in a G21 through 2015.
Because I ordered quite a few. Actually, the boat worked. I thought the boat worked fine. It pulled it into a completely different price market, and again, props made a world of difference. If you're going out and trying to run it mega loaded, full crew, you were going to be waiting for it to get on plane, but it would do it.
Yep.
Surf pipe came online, huge thing. Takes the exhaust, puts it down below the water, and we've kind of touched on it, but we haven't. This is for surfing.
Yes.
And the boat, let's go back to the very beginning of G23. The boat was designed to be listed over the side. The trailing edges of the boat were cupped around to clean up the wake while I was leaned over on the side. But this is the advent of, as we're coming through design, they get a plug and a mold, and they have a hull that's produced. They're coming through 2011, 2012. Hey, we're good to go on this. And they're designing things at the same time, and NSS comes online, which is the surf system that allows plates to go out port and starboard to clean up the wake on the other side, the opposite side, for delayed convergence. So surfing was thought about, and it was a big factor of the G-Series. But when NSS came online, the boat made a huge difference for surfing. And the surf pipe came along. We talk about the pros of it. The pros are it's quieter, it's not as steamy behind the boat. A lot of the steam would come along because we had catalyst engines, so the exhaust is a little bit warmer, and so we ended up getting a bunch of steam swirling around the back of the boat. But one of the things that they discovered was the boat was so blunt nosed on the front that at slow speeds it had a bigger vortice behind it, and so CO would
pool
collect
there. Yeah.
there and then actually come into the boat. So the surf pipe was a safety factor as well. So that's why it's a standard feature that came along in 2014. Accent and transom stripes were united. It's first year for interior deck stripe, interior deck coloring. Like this one is Sahara.
Your fiberglass floors in the boat, essentially.
Correct. And so we were able to get red.
Masters blue?
Probably Masters. Yeah, Masters blue.
Yep.
And black. They did 1 year only black.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
It's really hard to finish black.
It's hard. They had a difficult time finishing black. They didn't like doing it, so they took it out, much to my dismay.
To our dismay.
Oh, reef blue.
Oh, reef blue, of course.
Yep.
My favorite.
And then on the outside, voltaic yellow, purple metallic were options, and green metallic were new metallic lines that came online.
Yep.
And silver metallic went away. Silver metallic was only 1 year in 2013. We received the shattered graphic.
Yes. Big vinyl graphic down the side.
Big vinyl graphic.
Before that, we had the shield with the wing that kind of flew off the back side of it.
Mm-hmm. So the shield graphic was specifically designed for design package. And
yes.
design package was an option where they add an extra vent to the windshield, and then it was colored in white. And then the tower, they were called P's, but the P in the tower was colored white, and along with the foot of the tower was white. And it was a full design integration to the tower itself, and it looked really nice together. And you could tell that the graphic flowed into the windshield.
Yep.
And if you didn't get it, it wasn't that noticeable, but if you knew, you knew, and it was a really cool piece.
Yeah.
Shattered graphic fit, but it didn't really. I mean, I never thought it felt as
integrated.
As integrated
Yeah,
with it.
for
Exactly. 14, we finally got Bluetooth integration. So really ramping up the technology here for Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Frost filled with black Chromax. So the Chromax was bright in 2013, bright chrome, and then 14 you could option in the black chrome. So we had two different color options. So
With a frost fill.
with the frost fill.
Yep. Frost fill meaning it's a matte finish. So you have a frost center on your lettering with a gloss exterior or surround.
It's one of those 10 feet away you would never notice. Up close, you're like, oh, that's cool. That's
cool
the difference.
detail.
Yeah, it's a
For
nice
sure.
detail. That's exactly right.
Cool. Let's jump to 2015.
Yep.
Biggest change mechanically is our throttle has gone to electric shift.
An electric shift. And if you'd ever driven a 2013 or 2014 G or other Nautique, you're gonna be like, oh, why is the throttle broken? It was throttle by wire, but it was mechanical shift. And the way that mechanism worked together or didn't work together, it was really numb, and it just didn't have it's called detent, but like when you lift up on the ring and you click it into gear, it like clicks. Those model years, 2013, 2014, they didn't click into gear. They just kind of
Mush into gear.
Yeah, they went and mushed into gear.
Yeah.
And it's night and day difference. In 2015, electric shift, and it was hard just from a sales standpoint. Somebody looking at it, and you're like, oh, we have electric shift, and they're like, I don't care. But if other owners that had them, they were like, oh, my gosh, this is amazing. This is huge.
One of the things, if you don't know, then
Yeah.
you don't care
Yep.
until you've gone back and driven an older boat
Yep.
and then gone and driven the new boat.
That quality feel of just the electric shift, and,
Yes.
and it is today also. It's great.
3 new colors. We had indigo metallic, which was like a nice deep, like a purpley blue almost, depending on how the light hits it. Great color. Honestly, miss it. Wish we could still get it. It's one of
Dark.
my favorite blue metallics. We had an orange metallic offered for 2015, and also a pink metallic, which is
Rare.
probably pretty rare.
Rare,
but it was cool.
Yep.
So those are the color changes. Moving into some features on the interior of the boat, a big improvement was the new updated mirror. which was
It's
a Roswell piece?
Yeah, it's a Roswell
Yes.
piece. The previous one was Roswell, but it was the upper head that held onto the mirror and the lower part that clamped onto the windshield were friction fit.
Yes.
And so you had to constantly tighten them because you could be driving along and it would just slowly,
the wind would blow it down.
would blow it down.
Yeah.
And so the updated mirror was you had to press in on a big button, which released a star gear, and then you could rotate the mirror arm.
Yeah.
And it was the staple until 2022.
Yeah.
All the finishes, racks and tower speakers were in top of the windshield were all finished in what's anthracite, which is the flat.
It's gunmetal gray,
thank you.
essentially. So instead of polished black on a lot of the components in the boat, which was powder coated, we have this anthracite material, which
That's
was
correct.
maybe also powder coated.
I think it's a paint application.
Yeah.
And what they were trying to get away from, some of the speakers were like a silver metallic, and then the windshield was different. So we had a whole bunch of different textures and colors throughout the interior of the boat, and they're just trying to pull everything together and have it be very uniform.
Yeah.
And it was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and you see anthracite all the way through the current boats used and in a lot of different places if you pay attention.
Tower camera was actually eliminated in 15. I said earlier for 13. It went for 13, 14. It's hard to find it onto a 14. GoPro became a thing for Nautique. They had attachments up on the tower eye where that would follow the rider if you wanted to. Storage lockers received hooks, which were cool to talk about. Flip down off the engine dividers and hang items off there. Introduction of ballast valves. This is a pretty big one. The boat was so big and the ballast was so low in the boat that sitting in previous models in 13 and 14, if the boat sat there, overnight you could get a siphon where the water would just kind of bypass the ballast impeller itself and then slowly siphon and fill one ballast bag. And so you come out in the morning and the boat would be tilted off to one side.
Not the best thing to wake up to.
Right, yeah. So 2015 turned into an actuator that pulled all three valves open when you activated the ballast. Even if it was one ballast that you're activating, all three valves would open. And it just helped make the ballast more uniform and very accurate when it was filling up and down, because it wasn't starting off with an unknown number, which is one of the other things that they were battling.
Keeping unwanted ballast out of the bags at all times. 2015, creature comforts are coming alive.
Yes.
We got heated seats. Love seat and driver's seat, both heated, introduced in 2015.
Because the button was up on the gunnel.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that was big was shocks on the bimini top. You're like, why in the world does shocks need to be on the bimini top? But when the tower folded down, shaped like this, the tower would fold forward, but the bimini top needed shocks, so it would open up and then it would fold forward. We had to make it easier to fold the tower down with the bimini that was up there.
And it helped a lot.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
Absolutely. One more thing.
Yep.
Level 3 sound system.
Ah, yes.
We're at the cusp of the sound system taking off and being much upgraded. So we still had Polk at this time, and Nautique, the level 3 sound system, received a secondary sub at the driver's feet in the bulkhead forward, and then it received a set of tweeters in the dash. But probably the biggest upgrade was zone control. So we could make the tower go louder or mute it, and same thing through all 5 zones on the interior of the boat. It was all controlled through the link screen. And so we're really, Nautique was dipping their toe and getting ready to go full head on into elite sound system. And that was 2015. That was a good upgrades for Gen 1. And we're about ready to go into Generation 2.
Jumping into 2016, probably the most radical change that we've seen from year to year, because this is our first generational change. And what does that mean? Well, we kind of break it down from Gen 1 to Gen 2 and so on years that we have a complete hull redesign. So 2016 would indicate first year for the second generation G-Series.
The biggest change that the G23 received as a hull change was on the whole bow facing, bow up, it received a spray lip break-off point. And what that did was really it was for surfing. So generation 1, it was a smooth hull up the front, and what water would do, it would creep up, and water has a tendency to grab onto things. So just right up the face, and then waterfall off. And what that waterfall would do would be sprinkles. And when you're surfing and surfing into a headwind, it would come off as rain inside the boat. So it'd be sprinkling off the front, but if you had a big headwind, it would just blow and blow on the windshield. Nobody liked that. It was uncomfortable. You had to change how you were surfing, according to the wind. And it was a huge complaint, and they quickly addressed that as quickly as you can in the boating industry as far as a hull design, change. They also changed the transom of the boat to better incorporate NSS to better function, which drastically changed the shape of the surf wave.
Yep, surf wave is noticeably different from 2015 to 2016. And when you look at the back of the boat, you kind of see, instead of the NSS plates being flush mounted to a flat surface, once you get below the platform, the plates are mounted and they're kind of at a slight kind of forward angle, which helped better integrate them and come into contact with more water as you're surfing.
Additionally, this was another huge change for just features throughout the boat. The side of the boat received a big body line down it, like kind of a delta angle on the side.
Basically where the old accent stripe was gel coat,
correct.
They've bumped it out at this point. Not
correct. Well, and this is a turning point where Nautique's like, hey, let's get rid of graphics. Previous generations had the big graphics on the side. You touch it against the side of the dock and you've caused yourself $2,000 worth of damage because you smudged your graphic. But this is pivotal as you even come towards to today. We're starting to see vinyl being something of the past and letting the colors and body lines on the boat starting to become the design.
Right. Let the body do the work.
Yep. Link 2 screen. The Link screen becomes touch. It's the same size screen, but it's a 1 year only screen. It's small, but it's touch screen. And then we receive Helm Command, which is the rotary encoder with the 3 buttons at the top and then 2 at the bottom. And you can control everything on the screen like a mouse from the Helm Command. And that was 2016. We're seeing a lot of manufacturers just starting to get the rotary encoder dialed in now.
Yeah.
And we've had it for a really long time.
Right. It's very automotive inspired and very nice for the driver not having to reach up at the screen all the time if you don't want to.
Well, and just to brag on these guys a little bit, they hit it perfectly right out of the box because you can select by entering it, rotate through the screen, joystick up, down, left, right, and it all does it on the screen. And it takes a lot of engineering that went into that, and they got it to where we started in 2016 and it goes all the way to today.
Right, and to brag a little bit more.
We're out here bragging.
We're out here bragging.
Yeah.
It gave you 100% full functionality of all functions on the screen of the boat. And I don't think anybody to this day still has that yet.
You still have to touch the screen doing something, or a different screen or something crazy like that.
So that was huge and is still something unique to Nautique and how they developed that system.
Brand new helm seat. That was a big one. They cut out the side, so now you can spin around sideways in the boat. I was not a big fan. Quickly after I started using it, turned into a big fan. The seat's awesome, and it's hard to go back to the old one. The old one went for decades.
It was a great seat, but once you're in it, and the only way you could really comfortably spin to talk or look behind you was to actually hit the latch and spin the entire seat.
Be young and be spun around.
Or have a rubber neck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate today, which I don't have yet. We see JL Audio come into our boats.
Huge.
having sold Nautiques since about 2002, been around Nautique since 2000. Battling Mastercraft when they've had JL Audio was a real heartburn. And as soon as we got them in the boats, it was just huge. Sound systems, next level in base form.
Yeah.
And then the upgraded forms were just bangers.
And the really cool part, it's not like we just took our old stereo setup from the previous years and just popped JL speakers in there. They went as far as to bringing people in from JL to fully kind of tune the sound through the interior and integrated venting to surround the rest of the boat with bass instead of just, the two seats up front right next to the subwoofer. So they took it to the next step of developing a proper sound system, and instead of just, gutting the old stereo and replacing the speakers.
Yeah, and that's a testament to working with a really good partner like JL Audio.
Right.
Wavefront speakers, we got rid of the stupid, the tiny tweeters that were in the front, and they actually put 6.5s underneath the dash and ported them up into the windshield. It's a really clean looking speaker grill. A great way to get a huge amount of volume and sound off your windshield. And it's just really filled out the sound, especially for the driver, where a lot of the sound would be behind you because of tower speakers. It was just a huge upgrade. Instead of 10-inch sub, we went to 12-inch subs on the Studio Elite package.
Yeah, and again, the Studio Elite package was an option. You do see it on a good amount of boats, but the dead giveaway is if you aren't seeing the speakers mounted facing up on top of the dash on both sides.
Correct. Surf switch. Received a handheld button that allowed the rider to switch sides while he's surfing. And then at the time they paired with Pebble, which was a
smartwatch.
Smartwatch, thank you. And it paired to the boat, and it had a ton of capabilities. Obviously, you could switch sides. You can make the boat go faster or slower. You can control the track on the music. You can make the volume go up and down. You could mute the volume. And so as the rider back there, you had a ton of control over your environment and what the boat was doing. And that's, as a control freak, there was a lot of control over the boat. And that was, we're getting in almost the zone where the boat drives, and I don't need anybody.
Everyone's been in the situation where you're the one either driving or riding, and you're yelling at each other, captain and rider.
Correct.
And that helped kind of minimize a little bit of that.
Yep.
So cool feature.
First year that you could design design package, and that the windshield accent and the tower accent were color coded, and then you could tie it into the side of the boat, and it'd be a really cool look. It was a really cool look.
By color coded, previously you could only get the design package in white or silver.
Sorry.
So you could get all different colors for it this year.
While we're on exterior of the boat, we mentioned earlier we had 2 different graphic packages that year. No graphic, great option. Galaxy, which was a graphic that was transparent, and it was much smaller. It was cool that it was transparent because the colors would come through. And then this was the first year for DI engines, so the direct injection engines.
That's a big one.
Yep, that's a really big one. 6.2 liter direct injection, 450 horsepower, H5, 5.3 liter direct injection. But we still had 6 liter in the lineup. The 6 liter HO motor went away.
Yes, the 450 HO. Had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about this over the years, and
we're going to link some drag races where we have a 450 G23 and a 409 G23 taking off. And if you can tell me the difference on them, that'd be great. There is no difference on that engine until you get to the most top RPM, which is when that cam and that tune came on. It provided no more torque at low end. Change the prop, don't change the engine.
And also the conversation of why would you upgrade from a 6 liter with 409 horsepower to a 5.3 liter with 355 horsepower.
Yeah.
This is a whole other conversation, but all the direct injection engines, the torque comes on much lower in the RPM band. So when you throw the throttle down to get the boat up on plane, the boat has torque in it moves through the water at a more responsive, quicker rate than it did previously with that 6-liter.
100%. We don't move boats with horsepower. We move boats with torque. And where it comes on and where it is in the RPM range is massive. You can have less horsepower and more torque, boats can perform way better. But with that being said, we have another video. Make you link that in there too.
We'll throw it in.
Where we have a H5 versus an H6 in a G23, and the H6, the 450 horsepower, just dominates it.
It wasn't close.
It was not close. It was huge.
But the 5.3 also is significantly better time to plane than a 6-liter.
Yep.
Yes.
We have that also.
Great stair steps up for engine upgrades.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can still get the supercharged 550 on this year,
which was huge.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, man. So 2017, biggest change from 2016 to 17.
Oh my gosh. Link pan array?
Link pan array screen.
Absolutely. Link gets twice as big. And since we've already seen the 2016 pan array, the Link screen in his picture, when he puts this in, you'll see that it's 2016 is half the screen, and then when they double it, has effectively my favorite features, which is shortcuts. And shortcuts you can dial in and customize 4 different hotkeys to your heart's desire. So mine was always maps, seat heat, heater, and ballast shift.
Yep.
So you can quickly shift the ballast and balance the boat.
Yep. The switchboard, as they call it.
Thank you.
And then to go along with that, the rest of the helm changed as well. So in 16, to the left side of the steering wheel, you just more or less had a flat piece that the screen kind of mounted into. Now we have a storage cubby on the left-hand side, as well as a little slot to hold your phone / the drain plug for the boat. And they added inlaid up in the top of that some USBs for charging for your devices as well. Exterior-wise, we've gotten rid of the graphic we had in 16.
Yeah.
And replaced it with what they called the surf package, which was a dedicated surf graphic with a kind of a wave look to the side of the boat. And along with that package, you got a special C-deck piece with a graphic on it on the platform to go along with it.
Correct. Introduced anthracite finish on the towers. Introduction of white chromax, so the lettering on the outside of the boat corresponding with the interior of the boat was white chromax. So we had bright chrome, black chromax, and white chromax. So you really dial in the boat to a design that you like or fits with your vibe. The tower's updated with cast legs. So before it was welded, or it was tubes with the P logo in the middle of it. That was a cast piece, and then pipes for the rest of it. This is now a full cast unit that's been welded together. Stronger, much cleaner finish, less welding, and then it fit the vibe of the boat because it had the correct angles, and it fit the boat nicely. Introduced the XR7. So XR7 was the supercharged motor without the polished stainless steel pieces, and it was had cast exhaust manifolds, and it was just painted all black. But you're able to get 550 horsepower out of that 6.2 LSA motor. Just all the torque in the world. It was great. Introduced Roswell wakeboard or strapless racks. Finally, my goodness, we've had bungees for forever.
Mastercraft, for example, had clamping board racks back in what, 04 with the X-Star?
It literally took Nautique a long time to even just get racks.
Right.
So
yeah.
So
here we are, clamping racks.
Yeah.
Great improvement over bungees for most people.
Correct. And it was nice because when you had anybody that didn't want to get a bungee just wearing out or bouncing all over the place, but specifically skim boards and things like that, you could have it be delicate on it and grab the board and have it hold it securely. And it was in a vertical position instead of laying flat.
Yes.
Which is nice.
An N3 Boatworks favorite for the first time is the Fender Pro option. Fender Pro is basically, you have mounting points down the sides of the boat. You have a receptacle that clips into said mounting points that you leave tied to your fenders. And when you need your fenders, pop them out from your storage compartment, clip them into the dedicated spots for them, and it leaves your cleats open for your actual docking lines. So super handy.
Yeah. If you've ever had somebody that's kind of inept in the boat and they're like, I don't know how to tie the rope or tie up a buoy, and the buoy's like floating in the water and they have the end tied up, and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Or if you have kids, like Fender Pros are the way to go. You go ahead, click it in, it's good to go.
We talked a little bit about cameras and the different iterations of features they've had over the years. In 2017, as long as you had a GoPro newer than, I believe it was the Hero 5, or don't quote me on that.
I think it's tops out at 8, right?
Yes. Basically anything with Wi-Fi enabled GoPros, you could pair them to the screen, record, cut, take photos, everything from the screen, instead of having, some random small third-party camera.
Let me go a little deeper than that, because in the boat had presets. So when you take off for surfing and it would hit set speed, so 0 off would take over, it would signal the camera to turn on. Start recording. Now he falls, cut the throttle, turns 0 off, it disengages it, and it turns the camera off. So you never had those weird instances where the camera was just like, you thought you hit record, you didn't, and whatever, recording the floor. So it was just taking care of everything. It was trick. And you can still use it today, but the GoPros are getting older. The newer GoPros don't pair to the screens. It was pretty neat for what it was. It was really
period
cool.
Correct GoPro, it'll work.
Correct. We introduced on the Biminis surf pockets on the top, and so that was welcome, just to have a little bit of extra storage and use that Bimini top. And then on the interiors, the thread color was an option.
Yes.
And
Huge.
so what were the colors?
That's a good
question.
You're really quizzing me. I know we had Victory Red.
Yep.
We had Masters Blue.
Yep.
We had Tungsten Gray.
Yep.
We had Mojave Brown.
Yep.
We had Silver Cloud, or just white, I think is what they called it. And
I think that's where it stopped. We had those colors.
And then shortly,
black. You could do black.
Shortly after, you could get Reef Blue and Admiral Blue as well. So
following years.
Yep.
That's exactly right. But it teed us up for 18 and 19, which is right in the cream of the crop of, in my opinion, for that Gen 2 boat, where it really came into its own.
Yep, some really cool features. Nautique awareness camera was also available on 2017 model year. So,
yeah, speaking of that awareness camera really quick, how did that work? Or how does it work now that we had in 2017?
Yes, so the awareness camera, a lot of people ask, what is this for? The way I like to explain it is it's just a safety feature. And the way that it works is, if you have it activated, it's a tower-mounted camera that faces backwards, gives you a 180-degree view from the tower out the sides of the boat. You can see the platform. When you have the boat sitting in neutral with the engine on, the camera is default set to pop up on the screen, so you, the driver, can see who's in the water behind you without having to stand up and look over the back. You take off, hit 7 miles an hour, the camera goes away automatically, so you can see the rest of the information on your screen. You're able to turn the camera on anytime that you want if you prefer to do that. But great safety feature, makes it so you can plant yourself in that seat and have a great awareness of what's going on behind you. Starting in 2018, something that's important for most people, not so much Mark and I, because we're not very tall.
Yeah.
But the tower got 6 inches taller.
It fit the boat. It just looked proper on the boat. And then when you did have that customer that hopped in the boat and they didn't complain about the tower, it was massive. I could still reach the toe eye from here, or on the stepping on the seat, but it was nice just not having people smoke their heads on the tower. And then probably the biggest introduction that we saw as customers were able to upgrade out of their 13, 14, 15, and 16. It was an easy upgrade because of the thruster. Introduction of the stern thruster on the boat, and they called it NISA, but it was Nautique Integrated Steering Assist. And so unique to this thruster is the ability for it to go into automatic mode. And they programmed it to where when you're idling around below 4 miles per hour, as you turn the steering wheel, the thruster activates and will build boost or thrust or its RPMs for as hard as you're turning the steering wheel. So you can just drive around and it's doing it for you. So if you want to back up to the right, great. Now you want to go left, great. And the boat is going to drive the way you want to. It did have a manual mode where you could be sitting still and just holding down a button on the screen or on the helm command where you can knock it left or right and be able to use the thruster.
New vinyl colors would be Sahara, which we're in the proper boat for that. This interior is Sahara sand.
And then leather wrap steering wheel was an option. And then the introduction of enhanced courtesy lighting, RGB lighting. So cup holders and then badging, just like this badge. We have this one set on white, but you can change the color on it. It's just a nice touch feature. You can change all the colors to the screen or have a rotator. It was a neat option to have to just enhance the interior of your boat.
All right, on to 2019.
All right, 2019. The boat really received a couple color upgrades, but received two standard features. The options remain the same. Frameless windshield, so the windshield got a new look to it. Got rid of the big chunky frame on the top. Really streamlined the boat. But probably the biggest feature that became standard on the boat for 1 year was the power tower. And so the power tower was a rear folding tower laid flat behind the boat or down on the deck, and then the bimini dropped below the windshield, and it was standard on every single G. I think this is the pinnacle of the Gen 2 series. Tall tower, power, beautiful windshield, all the great options on the interior, and it's awesome. It's one of the best that's out there.
Absolutely. That and the optional thruster that 90% of boats probably had at that point.
Yeah, I think Nautique thought the take rate on that boat was on that option, because it was over $10,000, but thought it was gonna be in the 70 percentile, but it's actually rare to see a boat that doesn't, like a G23 and bigger G25, that doesn't have a thruster on it. It's one of those things. Maybe we'll make a different video about prop rotation and big props and how they walk, but it takes the boat that is challenging in the wind just because it's so tall, and everybody can drive it, everybody can park it where they want to, and it just makes it so easy to use. It's a tremendous feature.
And that leads us to last year of Gen 2, which
Yeah.
would be the 2020 model year. So let's jump into that.
So 2020 debuted, and looking back on it, it's interesting. We didn't know what was going to happen. Paragon launched for model year 2020, and so the 2020 G23 launched, and it received seats on the back of the boat. And so that means they had to come up with an entirely new deck and plug and invest hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get seats on the back of the boat, and looking back for just 1 year, which is pretty remarkable. I wasn't a huge fan of the seats on the back of the boat just because it took away the cool stylized vents on the back. It chopped the way they cut the interior, or the way they had to sacrifice a little bit of the opening for the hatches right here meant that you couldn't get a really long board in there. Now it's just like normal boards, but in the whole grand scheme of things, it's more, still is way more storage than any competitor that's out there. But I didn't know what was coming for the third gen. So, 2020s are kind of weird. The standard power tower was turned into an option, and then the previous gen tower was brought in, or the previous 2018 tower was brought into it. Some people liked how small the foot was. They didn't need the power tower. I get it. I got it. I understood it.
It was nice to have options, but also
in the back seats, they sold boats. They were great. I was just being a stick in the mud. So maybe I just don't like change. I don't know what the deal is. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
There's a reason they put seats on the back. And
yeah,
it's
that's
because
exactly
people had been complaining and wanting them for a long
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
So it's great that they did it. And 2020 is the first year that you can get transom seats on a G. A couple other things in 2020. We've probably skipped over some of the colors here and there, but the ones that stand out, I think we've caught. But 2020 is the first year for gold Chromax. So previously we had bright black Chromax, white Chromax, and now we've added gold. Fits great with a lot of the different color schemes and interior schemes that we could put together. So cool to have that. Haze Gray was a new color. Haze replaced Frost and is a slightly darker tint that is basically splitting the difference between tungsten gray and mystic white. Closed loop cooling.
Yeah, closed loop cooling. I love this. So without getting into a whole bunch of the details, what all this means is antifreeze was ran through the block, the cylinder heads, and the exhaust manifolds. So we have a really tall heat exchanger, and all that means is to freeze protect your boat. They came up with these 3 lines that plug in near the V drive, and you just squeeze them and drop them in the bilge, drain your strainer bowl, and the boat is winterized. That's great from that aspect. What that meant for the consumer or the owner and the boat itself, the engine was just able to maintain its cooling much easier. It didn't have a differentiator of lake water and then antifreeze that was in the block, and they were having to do antifreeze in the block for cast iron and aluminum heads, dissimilar metals. They need to have a non-corrosive that runs across it, and it simplified a lot of different things for us, and it made the boat, the engine, more reliable on the cooling and not just kicking random little codes that were really annoying, but
probably better for the long-term health of the engine.
Oh my gosh,
as well.
Yeah, substantially, and it's so easy to protect the motor. So it's a huge benefit. That was standard on every single motor, and it's to today.
Last couple things quickly is we finally got a cooler worthy for the G.
Yeah.
One thing that was always maybe slightly underwhelming when you open up that floor hatch, everyone loves the in-floor cooler, but when you open the floor hatch and see a $40 Igloo cooler in there, it was underwhelming. So now we have a nice quality cooler. The capacity isn't quite as big as the Igloo cooler, but at least it would hold ice for the day.
That's where the trade-off was. I wish it's escaping me, and maybe we can put it in there, but Nautique partnered with a cooler company, and so when you flip it over, it says Nautique, but reverse, so when you stick it in the sand, it says Nautique in the sand.
And it has matching trim too.
Chromax and CDAC on the top of it, cool. But when you open it up, it's actually, it's a really good cooler, and it doesn't need a bunch of ice to keep it cold. It does a really good job.
The last thing for 2020, before we jump into the 3rd generation, is to cap off our full stereo system. We switched to JL head units and digital amplifiers.
Yep. The cool thing about digital amplifiers, from owner, from an owner's perspective, and then a dealer's perspective, and then manufacturer, the JL hard programs in the gains and all the balances and everything into it. And so you tell the screen what system is on the boat, and it programs the amps. So from boat to boat to boat, they sound identical. You don't have some weird setting that's not clicked, or they didn't do it right in manufacturing. And then from the owner level or dealer level, you don't have twisting of amps and blowing up amps. Not saying that anybody ever did that, but it takes that factor out of it. And really what it's done is just made amps last indefinitely longer. and the sound is very consistent between each boat.
All right, let's jump into the third generation.
This is big time.
Gen 3 time.
Yeah.
This is probably the most,
I would say dramatic change
the most dramatic.
for the G-Series, because it is the first time that really the only thing that's been kept is the running surface.
Yep.
So when the 2021 G23 is released, obviously we had a tasting of it because Paragon was the year before, but you know, from the rub rail down, it's a Paragon hull. And you know, dimensionally looking at it on a piece of paper, the boat doesn't look like it grew, because it's still a 102-inch beam, max width, and then 23.5 feet long.
And it's not significantly heavier.
Yeah, what
I mean, it's heavier, but it's, you know, 300-400 pounds heavier than the previous Gen G.
It tipped the scales over 6,000.
Yep.
Yep. But an overhead shot would reveal that the corners of the boat actually turn into corners instead of pintailing down, and then the bow of the boat gets very square. I think this is the very first time that you really get to see Nautique look at 4G, and Paragon is obviously the leader on this, but this is an example of everything before this, all the ski nautiques, everything, running surface shapes the wake, and it's about a boat that's up on plane to shape a wake, either make it smaller or make it bigger. And what they discovered was the sides of the boat isn't a very significant contributor to the shape of the wave and the face of the wave.
Surf wave specifically.
Surf wave specifically. Yeah. And so there was a lot of attention and modification and cleaning up of the sides of the boat to clean the surf wave up.
And again, top to bottom, completely different boat, really. I think 2016 was kind of a slightly softer update than any other generational update that we've had over the years.
Yeah, if we're talking about comparisons, yeah,
yes.
The Gen 1 to Gen 2, which felt like a big update,
yeah.
To the Gen 3, they were like, hold my beer.
Yeah. So to put that into perspective, we see I think a hugely notable upgrade in surf wave performance, going from Gen 2 to Gen 3. I like the wakeboard wake on the newer boats as well. I've never had an issue with a wakeboard wake on a G.
Right.
But I think you get a little bit of a steeper lip to the top of that wake that gets you a little harder kick, where the old generation boats had that longer, rampier feel to them with a less of an abrupt pop. So
this is the very first time that Nautique reveals telematics, where the boat can actually receive over-the-air updates.
And to back it up a little bit, telematics, like,
thank you.
You might be like, what does that even mean? It's essentially the boat contains a cellular card in the dash, and the manufacturer can push updates to the boat wirelessly, so owners don't have to take their boats into dealers to update the software on the link screens to operate the boat.
Yeah, I mean, even you're like, oh, it's the screen, right? Well, it's the screen, it's the keypad.
Yeah, it's everything.
The stereo.
It's all the electronics.
It's the engine. I think we're just now for 2025 or 6 push software updates to the ECM on the motor, which is going to be fantastic. This is another huge feature that came out on the boat that we didn't know we all wanted, which was electric steering.
Classic steering is full mechanical. You are, as you're moving the steering wheel, it's moving the rudder, and you have all the force to deal with from that point at the helm to the back of the boat where you're turning the actual rudder. So as boats have gotten heavier, this generation, the rudder actually got a half inch bigger all the way around.
Yeah,
so you're you know, you're moving a heavy boat with a big rudder that has a lot of forces acting on it, and the electric assist takes a lot of the weight out of the steering feel, so it just gives the boat a nice smooth, you know, single finger type action to it. It makes driving the boat effortless. It makes the boat feel a lot lighter and smaller than it is. And also a big feature of that is, or I guess a side effect of that would be, you know, when you're surfing and you have your surf system deployed out either side, you don't have any of the torque on the steering wheel from that pressure on the water, which wasn't ever really a huge deal, but once you go to the newer version,
Right.
it's hard to go back. So having
exactly right.
that electric assist has been really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Essentially, you let go of the steering wheel now and the boat tracks straight. It's one of those, once you experience it, you're like, oh, this is really nice. It is different than hydraulic steering. Hydraulic, there's a pump that's on there,
Right.
or you're pushing fluid, and it's a really numb feel. This retains a lot of the feel of the rudder, which is really precise. But with the electric motor on the back of the helm, it's effortless all the way. It's pretty great.
You still have a connection to the physical parts that are moving. It's just helping with the weight is the best way to probably sum that up.
We saw a change of battery locations. Instead of 2 batteries directly in the bilge, they kept one in the bilge, and they now offered one in the port side underneath the storage area. Storage was a little bit decreased because of where they put the battery locations. It mimicked Paragon, but it helped balance the boat because we put a 100-pound battery over to the port side. Saw the addition of sunshade options, extended sunshades off the tower. Probably the biggest user interface change, which was the change to the surf system.
Just with the settings. Yep. So in previous years, you had 2 separate controls to power the NCRS plate, which is the center trim plate on the back of the boat, just below the surf pipe. And you also had a separate setting for the Nautique surf system. In 2021, software melds those 2 together and gives you a visual feedback on the screen as to what's actually happening based on wherever you have that surf setting number set to. So you have a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being a more mellow wave shape, and taking it all the way to 10, which is going to be your steepest wake shape. And those 2 plates in the back, again, the surf system and NCRS are working in unison with each other when you're changing that setting.
So right now, a 0 to 10 setting, which is actually 11 increments. What
True.
we had before was 36 different combinations. There was 36 increments.
Yeah.
Because you had 0 to 5 for NSS and 0 to 6 or 0 to 5 for NCRS, which is and then any combination of that. But if you didn't know, you could get the boat really out of whack, and it would be goofballs.
It just works. They made it to where you almost can't mess it up.
Just to nerd down even a little bit more on this. So
Yep.
0 to 10, great. But now you have the full speed spectrum to then change your wave also. I think the surf system turns off anything above 12.9.
Mm-hmm.
They have that as a safety feature. But the boat, I think we were testing a Paragon. It was like, we started at 10.5 just to be messing around. And every single setting worked from 10.5 to 12.9. That's math I can't really do right now.
Gives you a lot
So
of
it's a lot.
stuff
So
to play with. Figure out what you like.
you can play with it,
And
but
it's
you can
easy.
replicate it every single time you go out.
Yeah.
Probably the thing I hated the most about the 2021, they moved the bilge switch, the battery switch into the bilge. And so you had to open up the big trap door, get on your knees, climb down in there, and turn the battery switch off. There's a why behind it. They wanted to take the batteries and all the switching and everything and make the wires, the big battery cables, a lot shorter. I mean, they probably saved 10 feet off of battery cables and cut down on noise reduction or noise interference of
Yep.
electric, and just made install easier. But it just lessened the user experience.
Right.
It was such a pain in the butt. It stunk.
Yeah. Having the battery switch in the walkthrough, like on all previous years, and then having to climb down under the bilge was maybe not the
And
most
the
fun
real
thing
salt
in the world.
in that wound was we had already seen the future the year before in Paragon, where we had the switch next to the helm.
Yeah,
So
if you want to see that, you got to jump up ahead to 2025.
Yeah,
but-
that's exactly right. So, 2021 was a massive year, besides COVID going on, but we just sold a ton of 21s and 22s. It was tremendous. And so, speaking of 22s, let's move on to 2022.
All right, so jumping into the 2022 model year on the G-Series, the most notable difference visually that you'll see if you're shopping these, you're going to see new towers hit the market. We have 3 different options, and that kind of continues on until now. Towers are the same in 2025 as what they came out with in 2022, and for good reason. They're awesome, and you have a bunch of different options to fit whatever you're trying to do. To start, you have a cast rear folding, manual folding tower. Second would be the actuated tower option, as they call it, which visibly exactly the same as far as the looks go, also a rear folding tower. And then Mark's favorite, the telescoping tower, which they've kind of pulled over, not exactly the same, but definitely Paragon inspired.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going in a timeline from 2020, that the Paragon tower was a 3-stage tower, 2-stage tower, and you can operate it all the way up or all the way down. All the way down is really close to your head while driving it. So when the 2022 came out with telescoping, it's a single-stage tower, so it drops it, but it's 6 inches higher than the Paragon previous year, or of the same year. And that tower works really well in the all the way down position. Great sun coverage. Still room to walk in and out of the boat. I think it's a better application. And we see on the new 2024 Paragon where that tower goes to a 3-stage, all the way up, middle, and lower. And it was just because of this single stage tower that was on that boat. But with that being said, all of our G23s for 2022 all came with telescoping towers.
Yeah. Putting it on everything.
Yep.
So it's that good.
And then probably the other biggest feature, that turned into a 5-tank. So we got 2 more ballast tanks in the boat. So underneath the port and starboard midship, it's called supplemental ballast. Those ballast tubs were already there in Paragon and the 2021 model, but 2022 it came online as an option. And what it was allowed to do, or what they wanted you to do, and they call it supplemental, not pro ballast or anything like that, but they wanted to be able to have the boat reflect full crew all the time. And then as you add people on the boat, then you can start removing ballast so that your experience behind the boat can be replicated and have the same wake all the time. Probably the only other major change that we received was the docking lights went to a less expensive docking light that went above the rub rail. So it's just a smaller unit compared to the big PTM billet edged docking light that was below the rub rail on the 2021 model. So arguably 2021 better looking docking light.
Right. Easier to keep your docking lights safe in 22.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So trade-offs, I guess.
Yeah.
So that takes us into 2023. And what we're going to see as we move forward is everything that we've been talking about. Sure, we've taken away a couple options, but the boats have grown and are just packed full of everything. And we've been talking about features and options, or features and benefits. There's a ton of things behind the scenes on the boat that we're not talking about. The way they've wired and PDMs and the way they've just improved the whole structure and the details of the boat, we're not going to get into on this because that'd be a long video.
It would be a very long video, but they're certainly making little changes underneath the surface year in, year out, whether we've explicitly stated it or not.
So for 2023, we're going to combine it with 2024 because there's not that many additions for 23 and 24. So I think the anticipation of the new 25 Gen 4 boat being released and whatever was going on in the marketplace and everything that was happening, 2023 and 2024 have limited additional options. Probably the biggest thing that we saw was finally got rid of the embroidery on the seats that said Nautique, and we went to a nice Chromax option that coincided with the interior Chromax that you chose. This allowed a little bit more, I think it's a high-end detail that's being added.
Yeah.
And then just over time, if you want to update your interior or just clean it up, we can replace the Chromax badge and not have 10, 15 years from now where we just have stitching that's starting to fray or just something that could be discolored.
Fading, yeah, fading
Yep.
and fraying is typically what you see over time on those. So
Addition of a few new colors, but this leads us into the 4th generation G for 2025.
So 2025 marks a couple things. Obviously, if you've been paying attention at all to any Nautique social media posts, it's the 100th year anniversary. And that launched the 4th Gen G23. 2021 G23 followed the 2020 Paragon, and the newer Paragon was released in 2024. G23 follows with a fresh hull, Paragon inspired.
I think we were all prepared for the 4th generation in 2025. Huge improvements for the boat. Probably the biggest thing that we saw that I enjoy was the rear seats. Strange enough, I enjoy rear seats. But they angle them like the S23 where it focuses you or and whoever's sitting there towards the center of the platform. It's much more comfortable. It's a better seat. It's a better look.
It's better vibes when you're hanging with
It's all
with
about the
friends
vibes.
on the back.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
great.
And then having that addition or that wing out allowed when you opened up the port and starboard hatches a better attack angle for longer boards or longer items that you want to put in storage. And for those customers and for people that really understand that you get to use the rear storage on their boat, not compared to any of our competitors where it's all ballast bags, but it's massive to be able to put 6, 7 surfboards on one side and 4 wakeboards on the other, and all your jackets and have everything below the deck. But to be able to get stuff in there like you want to is massive.
Yeah,
So
and
they
not
did-
have to puzzle piece them in there.
Absolutely.
100%.
It's a huge improvement.
And we detail this. We have actually on most of these boats, we have more detailed and in-depth walkthrough videos, which I'm sure we'll be pulling clips into this video. But if you want to see a really, really deep dive and more extensive look on any of the changes, we'll be linking the walkthrough and review videos on here as well.
Correct. Driver's helm seat, you get an option to have it telescope up, be power forward and back, and then telescopes up and down. So you can retain that perfect feeling of a proper helm seat, but then adjust it to the height that you want. The helm received the battery switch, so it's a remote battery switch, toggles it on and off, has a little display on how the battery selector is actually happening between the 2 batteries. So there's some info that goes along with that. It's great. We can dig more into that in a different video. Acrylic options, so the white pieces of plastic that we had before for slide and air dam, or underneath the steps on the big hinges for port and starboard rear hatches. You can make them white, or you can option them in smoked acrylic black. Deleted, this is the first year that they deleted the transom cooler. There was a cooler from the 2013 model that you get in the back, and the very first step you open up and it was a cooler. That was a very fun thing to sell, and an item that would grow mold, or would have a whole bunch of items that we put in there and forgot about, or even with Nautique's amazing water management system, it just always had some water in it, and it's just from the rooster tail coming up and lapping the back of the boat. People are gonna miss it, but the gains throughout the rest of the boat are too big to over, to skip out on it because the cooler on the back is gone.
And one of the big gains probably leads us over to the helm.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So the helm is, again, basically pulled over from the 2024 Paragon, where for the first time, they've actually redesigned the full rotary encoder area of the helm. The screen is a little bigger, not a vast change. If we make our way over to the armrest, you now have a magnetic phone holder. You have new controls just north of the encoder, which would be your bilge, blower, and nav lights, as they have removed the button push keypad or keyless ignition, which is new for Nautique. I've had more or less the same keypads for how long?
2011 was the current iteration of the keypad with the red and green start-stop button, and it's worked really well. People are hesitant on screens, but they've been really robust. So with them to pull the code and it pops up on the screen now, so you can unlock the boat. It's been welcomed. I think it's a nice piece. It added a cubby to the dash where you can put some more things. We don't have to have the extra keypad there. And I think the update to the rotary encoder, the helm command, has been massive. And probably one of the biggest things that they added that everybody loves is they pulled the stereo controls out of it and made its own controls.
Yeah, you have a dedicated volume or stereo control, basically. Obviously, you can do the volume with it, but yeah, it's a separate thing.
It's a dial.
Yep.
Up, left, right on tracks.
Pause, play, change track, and adjust your volume with it, which is pretty much all you need.
Yeah, it's a mini rotary.
Then you have your phone right there if you want to scroll through your Spotify or whatever. Yeah. It's right there. Really nice update to the helm. You also have customizable left and right buttons on there, which we kind of detail how those work. I like to use it for controlling the manual thruster. You hit left and spin the boat left and vice versa. So, some cool stuff there.
But it's a lot of info.
If you want to watch a deeper dive on this stuff.
I can't wait to see how many pictures and videos that you have to upload and plug into this thing, but it's going to be pretty massive. I think we did a pretty good job. I feel like we're going to skip out on a couple things or miss a few things, but let us know what we missed. Let us know if it's even of interest.
Yeah,
because
we're open for discussion.
I'm shocked with how long we've been working on this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of prep.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been a month and a half or 2 months since we did the 4 boats out on the water. Mm-hmm. And then just gathering all the data and how we're laying this out. But any which way, if this is cool, awesome, let us know. If not, hell, let us know. We'd appreciate it.
If you're a G owner or a person shopping for a G, hopefully this video was helpful. That's been the goal. Share some information and just take a little bit of a deeper dive than you might otherwise find on the YouTube. So thanks for watching. We're going to figure out what to make next.
Yeah. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.